What were you excited about or most interested in about coming here?
I think just being amongst such an incredibly diverse group of people. I've shared in some of the sessions that I'm from a very diverse place, and I've also been in kind of a bubble within that diversity. I went to a private school, and it took my whole, until I was 20 something to really realize the other populations and demographics that were living in the same town as me. I was a long-term sub at a public charter school, and it wasn't until then that I realized that there's families whose, or kids whose parents are in jail or who are abusing them, or who, they're 7th graders who are on drugs and all these things, because I was in this little, perfect little private school bubble. And so part of me, I own actually the yoga studio that Nancy used to own, and I feel super honored to have that opportunity. And I feel like it's a big responsibility, because now what I want to do is to bring our community together through the studio, and through kind of breaking down the walls and the barriers.
So what do you feel have been some of the greatest takeaways for you so far?
There's a lot. I feel like the biggest thing for me, again, this word responsibility keeps coming up, is that me as a white female, I'm like this, quintessential yogi, right? I'm a white, young female in shape. And so it's my responsibility to put myself out there and to reach out to the community, to my community in particular, and to bring in, people who are underserved or who are marginalized or who just never would have thought to even do yoga in the first place. And that is one of my missions, and it was before coming here, but now I have my fire is lit even stronger, and I feel this urgency to really get into our community and to create. Waimea is a really special place. It's where I was born and raised, and it's now time for me to give back to that community, and that's why I started this studio in the first place. And through these conversations, it's really clear to me. I can see a lot of parallels between the Native Americans and the Native Hawaiians, and the Native Hawaiians are obviously who I'm more closely connected to, because having lived in Hawaii. So it's my job now, one of many jobs, to help to bring in those different populations into the healing space of my studio in particular, and just to bring the healing energy of yoga and meditation.
How do you feel your practice will be affected by this summit and the work that we've done here?
I think that just seeing it from a different lens of, I've been kind of moving towards more of the therapeutic side of yoga anyway. That's kind of how my classes are now, and even more so now. I'm like, yes, I need to get to those people who it's not accessible to do a regular yoga class. I'm like, interestingly, one of my teachers is just emailed me yesterday and said, hey, I'm leaving for the whole summer, and he just told me yesterday, that was his last class. I'm like, okay, so now it's an opportunity, right? So now I have a space. Thursday nights, and normally I would think, okay, I need to fill that space with the same kind of class, but now my mind is like, no, let's go to something that's going to be more useful for the community. Maybe it might not bring in all the money, maybe it might not be what other people think is the best business move to make, but for me, what can I do to better serve our community? And now there's this big puka, we say hole, in the schedule, and I can fill it with something that's going to be really useful for our community.
Awesome. What social justice issues are most near and dear to your heart, and how do you see yoga intersecting with them?
Yeah, definitely just the differences in ethnicities in Hawaii, and the gap that we have. I see these kids, these younger kids who are from Micronesian families maybe, and whose parents are, there's several families living in one household, and they're working these minimum wage jobs, and the kids are hardly being provided for, through no fault of their parents or their families. But what I would like to see is those kids practicing yoga with the privileged kids, right? And having those families who have more financial stability to be supporting those who don't, so that in any given class you could have a private school kid with the public school kid, and you know, everybody in between. And they're sharing the space together, and so that there's not strangers in the town. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm only playing with my friends who are here in this private school, or more privileged, you know. But there's also this whole other group, and the kids can, you know, intersect and connect and say, oh, that's my friend. You know, we just did yoga together. We were just doing downward dog together. You know, how cool would that be to have this sort of connection in the grocery store, because there's 2 grocery stores in town. So we're all going to the same store. We're all going to the same post office. But there's still such a, you know, not segregation, but there's just so many different groups that aren't necessarily intermingling as much as I would like to see. So I want it to start from the kids, and for them to, you know, foster these relationships that are going to then allow them to heal and to foster these greater relationships as they become adults and grow into their beautiful selves.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you really want to share?
I think that's good. This is an amazing space, and I'm really hoping that this is the first of many summits, and I can see it just growing. I just was texting my friend and saying, you would love this, and she's like, oh my gosh, you need to tell me when the next one is. I'm like, yep, I hope the ripple effect goes beyond just right here where we are right now.